Find them online at tmschvac.com.
The Mechanical Services Company. Trusted, proven, preferred.
Tim and Kathy Keller are back with us. They've been regular guests on our show over this past couple of years. Tim and Kathy Keller, they are founders of Redeemer Presbyterian Church in New York City, New York Times best-selling authors as well. And Tim, Kath, welcome back. How are you guys doing?
Thank you.
Well, long story, but good.
Yeah, long story indeed. Okay, let's start there because last week Kath sent me an email and I did inquire, and she said this, that Tim was admitted to the National Cancer Center in Bethesda, Maryland, has been undergoing a bunch of scans and tests in preparation for deleting his immune system tomorrow and then rebooting it on the 10th with his own weaponized T cells. Tim,
we have to know more about that.
I mean, it sounds like science fiction.
Well, Kathy could probably do a better job than me, but I'll tell you, I think I will let her. Go ahead, Kathy, you do it.
Well, there's been a lot of news stories about this recently. I'm sure you've seen some of them about the article in the New England Journal of Medicine and a couple other places about people who are doing something called TIL therapy. TIL therapy means tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. And 2 years ago, when Tim was first diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, before he even started chemo, we came down here and they harvested some tumor tissue and also some of his lymphocytes. And they found the ones that were the most aggressive against his tumors. And they segregated them out and bred them and made them more aggressive and put them up on it. Well, didn't put them in the shelf, put them in the deep freeze and said, you know, if you ever need them, they're here waiting for you. And in May, when he was hospitalized for another reason, they did a scan and said, now's the time, go get down there and, you know, get those cells. So it's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, it's pretty brutal, actually, to take all the meds that they're giving, and there's plenty of side effects, et cetera. But that's
Right.
what they're doing. It's
Right.
It's
And
cells that are particularly aggressive towards Tim cancer. It doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is. It's Tim cancer. And if they did it for you, it would be Kathy cancer, or it would be, you know, Elliot cancer.
Really?
Yeah, it's the wave of the future because the chemotherapy, I was told that pancreatic cancer cannot be cured by chemotherapy. All it does is slow it down. Whereas this is aiming at actually eradicating it, because what it does is it's basically taking your T cells, you're taking your own T cells and turning them into ninjas against your own cancer. And so that's it will be the way of the future, and it's already, by the way, it does show good results. But it's not not for everybody. In other words, not everybody gets better. Not everybody. Nevertheless, it's very promising. So I don't want to bore people with it, but it's my children all, just like you said, it sounds like science fiction.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels much more right than the chemotherapy where you put poison in you and slowing the cancer down, as opposed to getting your own body able to fight the cancer.
Right.
So.
First of all, there's nothing boring about it.
No, it's fascinating.
Cancer affects probably every person who is listening to this program in one way, shape, or form. Tim, I want to ask you, though, how did you feel throughout that process?
Oh, I'm smack in the middle of it. The first part is where they suppress the immune system through chemo already. In other words, they actually do give you chemo to suppress the immune system, so that when they give you your T cells don't have any competition. You see, and so they're the only one. Your body says, "Oh, we got to do something about this," and takes the T cells in. I've been told that the part I've just been through, which wasn't good, it was hard, but is not the hard part. The part is this coming weekend. So if listeners want to pray for me, I would say pray for me that this weekend just because evidently I was told it's like you feel pretty bad.
Okay, so we're praying for Tim this weekend.
Right. Okay. So then, just in layman's terms, then Tim and Kath, then Tim's been sort of like, sort of deleted. Like you're saying, your immune system deleted in some way. These cells have been taken out. Now they're going to be weaponized and fighting itself.
Put back. Yeah. They were evidently our T cells do not fight cancer. They fight other things. Our lymphocytes don't. And what they learned to do is, right?
I was going to say they do fight cancer, but fairly ineffectively because cancer has defenses against your own immune system. But these are ones that have been segregated out as being able to not be defeated by those defenses. And there's an article in the New England Journal of Medicine where a fellow just did this using a particular mutation, the KRAS, K-R-A-S mutation for pancreatic cancer. Not everybody has that one. Tim doesn't have that one, but that's the one he was using, and he got T cells from all the people and sent them after this, cells that had this mutation, and they're cancer-free.
Interesting.
And you wrote it up in the New England Medical Journal.
Okay, so then, Tim, this weekend, they're going to do what to you that's going to be difficult?
Well, first, I'll tell you what. All right, you keep asking for details. I hope this isn't boring anybody.
Not at all.
They're going to give me somewhere between 50 and 100 billion of my own T cells back. Now, some of them have grown.
But they've had for 2 years on the shelf.
They've had them. And they're also genetically altered. Now, that sounds terrible. What they do is they basically have taken the brakes off of them. That's what one of the doctors said, that makes those T cells not very effective against cancer. So they've changed them. They put them in, but now you don't have an immune system. However, what they do, unfortunately, is they have to. They give you something else. It's called IL-2, which actually makes you sick, makes you feel sick, so that the T cells have something to really get going with. So it is a sense in which this is a big oversimplification, but they basically say, imagine what it means like to get the flu, but really get a really bad case of the flu, where you don't want to get out of bed. That's kind of what's going to happen to you this weekend.
Really?
Yeah. So, it's, and yet it's very
well, with some added things like your breathing stopping and having to be intubated and sent to the ICU.
Really?
Yeah, but
they said these are all possible
100%
side effects,
reversible,
and they're 100%
reversible.
What did you say, Tim? Reversible.
Well, 100% reversible. In other words, no matter what happens, they don't last, but they can be pretty severe over the weekend. Yeah.
If you just joined us, we're talking with Tim and Kathy Keller. So then, this weekend on your calendar, Tim, you have severe sickness lined up, right? Circled red.
Yeah. Most of you, when you get the flu, you don't realize you're going to have a terrible flu.
You don't know what's coming.
Right.
But I've been told Saturday and Sunday you will have one of the worst cases of flu you ever had.
Oh my gosh! So are you going to be at home? I mean, is this like
No, I'm sorry. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, at the National Institute of Health.
Okay. So you'll be there throughout.
Yep.
Yes, this is an immunotherapy trial, phase 2 trial, meaning they're experimenting. I mean, we don't like to use the word lab rat because
there it is.
Those aren't very endearing words, but this is an experiment to see if it works. They've done it with a number of people, and it's worked great. But they're always tweaking it to make it work better. So
that's fascinating. Truly it is.
All right, Tim. So when you're looking toward being sick like that, or you haven't been feeling well for the last week plus, what do you do? What's the thing? Are you turning on the TV and watching like old Rockford Files or what?
Just lying there and praying.
Absolutely not. However,
as a matter of fact, now that you ask.
Yeah, actually, I had almost the perfect. God was very nice about this. I've written a book on forgiveness.
Yeah.
And my publisher gave it to me, and it's what's called the first. This is so strange. The last time you get to look at the book, where they put it in the galley, so every page is exactly the way it's going to appear on the page, and you have to go through it line by line to make sure there are no typos, and there always are.
Oh, God.
And so you have to go through it. It's 272 pages. But what was perfect about it was, I did that in the last 4 or 5 days. I had a bad weekend, but then in the last 2 or 3 days, I finished it. And it was perfect because you don't really have to be creative. I don't need all of my, how do I say it? I don't need all of my marbles.
It's right. It's kind of like elementary math, like you're looking at grammar and punctuation and spelling.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
exactly.
it does give me a sense of accomplishment.
Good.
To say I did another 50 pages today, and I just actually sent it back to them last night. And so, and
it will be out in October. Just
well,
in time.
congratulations. That is really exciting.
November 1, actually, Kathy, is when it's available for yes, it's called Forgive. Why Should I? How Can I? It's small case F, and it's going to come out. It's on Amazon already for pre-order.
Yep, I see it right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it because I think it's going to have. When we talk to the staff here about it, because people, the doctors and nurses say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And the minority of them, some of them are believers, we think, but the minority are not. I mean, the majority are not. But they say everybody needs to know about that. See, there's nobody that looks at that and doesn't think, I don't really need to know anything about forgiveness.
That's not a problem.
There's nobody in the world that doesn't sometimes deal with that. So we're pretty kind of excited because it's got gospel every page, but we think it'll draw people in to get it to say, well, okay, maybe I could learn from that.
That's fascinating.
Tim, you wrote a piece last year, maybe earlier this year, in Comment Magazine on forgiveness that I was really, I was just very impacted by that piece you wrote. Is this similar? Was that a portion of the book?
Yeah, it's in the book. It's altered because, when the editors get something, it always changes. But it's essentially all of it is in the book. Mm-hmm. It's basically one of the chapters.
Right. So it's interesting because, you think of yourself in those few times that you've been sick, lying in bed, and from at least me, I'm not necessarily thinking about forgiveness. My regrets wash over my life, right? I mean, with a microscope, I should have, I could have, I would have, but I didn't. So the idea of you working through minutely on forgiveness, that's much healthier, Tim.
Yeah. I mean, I really...
Well, now that he's finished that, he's working really hard to finish his series on where should the church go next for renewal because we're in such disarray.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So, I don't want to leave the forgiveness book because just for a second is younger people. I mean, I haven't actually looked up your ages, John and Kathy, but I know that you're not. I know that you're probably closer to us than to our children. But anyway.
I'm 25 and John's 26.
Really?
We're just very mature, Tim.
No.
But younger people.
Jack
are
Benny used to say he
this,
was having the 20th anniversary of his 39th birthday.
But younger people struggle with forgiveness. In fact, I had an interview with a couple of my older Redeemer staff people about the book when I was starting it. And they said people struggle with it because it feels unjust.
Yep.
If somebody's wronged you, you have to, justice is what matters.
Yep.
And by the way, do you all know Rachel Den Hollander?
Yes, sure.
Okay, well, Rachel, I make a lot of use of her material in this book because what she says, and she's a very strong conservative evangelical Christian, but she says over the years when there was sexual impropriety in the church, there was the doctrine of forgiveness was sort of used on the victim.
Weaponized, yeah.
Weaponized and said, you got to forgive this guy. And then as soon as she would do that, then they put him right back where he was because, well, if you really forgive, then you really, it's as if it never happened. And she says this is a complete misunderstanding of forgiveness. So I deal with that in another chapter. And so the fact is that younger people really struggle with forgiveness, and that's another issue which I think is really important. That's why I got pretty excited when I was reading the book.
Fabulous. November 1st, the new book comes out. Hey, Tim and Kath, we need to take a quick break. Can you stick around for just a little bit more?
Sure.
Oh, fabulous. Thanks so
They're
much.
not going anywhere.
Good. We're happy to have you here with us then. Tim and Kathy Keller are going to stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes, so please, we hope that you do as well.
The Mechanical Services Company. Trusted, proven, preferred.
If you can fix the big stuff, you can fix the small stuff. The Mechanical Services Company has fixed HVAC systems large and small for over 100 years. For fair treatment, expert service, and affordable solutions 24/7, 365. Find them online at tmschvac.com.
The Mechanical Services Company. Trusted, proven, preferred.
There has been a lot of conversation lately about what is Christian higher education. What about the institution that you would go to if you were interested in being a believer and having a higher education?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to quantify in some ways.
Yeah, because some people look at it and think it's about going to a school where all of your beliefs that you have when you start the school are just encouraged,
Or reinforced.
bolstered, reinforced.
Other people will look at higher education, especially Christian higher education, and say, wait a second, I'm there to expand. I need to know more. I want to increase my view of the world and Christ in it. It can be a dangerous, slippery slope, especially politically where we are now.
Yeah. Education, though, is always an adventure. It should be an adventure because it should be taking you out of your comfort zone. It should be exposing you to things that you didn't know and helping you to reevaluate and be more solid in the truth that you already believe in.
Now, we know how the story ends. If you're a believer, you know Christ will reign. We should not be afraid. Look online at Grove City College. Grove City College online, gcc.edu.
Creation Festival 2022 is your summer destination. June 29th through July 2nd at Agape Farm, Shirleysburg, PA. Featuring Zach Williams, We the Kingdom, Bethel Music, Newsboys, Dante Bowe, Red, and many more. Creation Festival, a tribute to our Creator. Come for the day or the entire event and go home changed. Compassion International presents Creation Festival. Get half off tickets now while they last, exclusively at wordfm.com/creation.
We are everywhere. On your radio at 101.5 WORD-FM Pittsburgh, at wordfm.com, the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
Has your child swallowed your medicine, your laundry detergent, your nail polish remover? Call the Poison Helpline. Have you inhaled paint thinner, glue, pesticides? Call the Poison Helpline. Have a question about a dose, a fume, something your kid just drank? Call the Poison Helpline. Poisonings can happen at the home, on the job, or in the great outdoors. Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. 1-800-222-1222. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Tonight we'll see cloudy skies with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, heaviest early. Those storms can bring flash flooding and damaging winds. Expect a low of 59. A refreshing breeze for tomorrow with times of clouds and sun. We'll see a high tomorrow of 70. Mainly clear skies for tomorrow night with a low of 53. As we wrap up the work week on Friday, expect mostly cloudy skies. We'll see a high Friday of 73. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Happy to be talking with Tim and Kathy Keller in their monthly slot on our show. Always grateful to catch up with the Kellers, see how things are going. Tim's latest book is going to drop November 1st. It's called Forgive. Why should I and how can I? Tim, before the break, we talked about just the idea of forgiveness, how desperately we need it in culture. And you said that your hope was that because so many people can resonate with that idea and just see the decrepit nature of how we deal with one another in America right now, maybe it would draw a lot of people in to read that and consider it. A couple things in the news today. So first thing off the top, we do a news segment at the beginning of our show each day. The first thing we were talking, of course, about this young girl, a fourth grader at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, who had to, smear the blood of a classmate on herself to appear as she was dead so that she could survive the horror of what was happening in her classroom. And then, of course, the second story, speaking of Rachel Denhollander, was that 90 women and girls, including star gymnasts who had raised concerns about Larry Nassar back in 2015, are suing the FBI for ignoring the issue until Larry Nassar could prey on more women for 14 more months. And then police officers arrested an armed man near the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's residence early this morning. I mean, there's so many bad stories in the news today. It was kind of overwhelming to just pick four. And so I ask you about forgiveness. I ask you what does it mean for us today, and how is it possible to do it?
Matthew 28. Or do I mean 18, dear?
It's 18. What Kathy's referring to is I based the book. The place to start, John, the place to start is the parable of the unforgiving servant. It's pretty famous. It's a place where Jesus tells a story about a servant who owes a king 10,000 talents, which is actually like a ridiculously infinite sum. The king forgives him. And then the servant goes off and finds another servant who owes him $5, as it were, and throws him into prison because he can't pay. And when the king hears about it, he comes back and says, "Shouldn't you have had mercy on me the way I had mercy on you? Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant the way I had mercy on you?" And then Jesus says, "So will my heavenly Father do if you don't forgive your brother from the heart." And the basic idea is that what's missing in forgiveness today is the vertical dimension. What it's saying is that the parable is saying that the reason why this servant could not forgive this other guy a fairly small amount was because the king basically said, "What I did for you just never sunk in. It just never sunk in. You ignored it or whatever." And I think the fact is we live by God's mercy every second of the day. He keeps our heart pumping, keeps our molecules from not bursting away from each other, he keeps our body together. We owe him absolutely everything, and therefore we ought to be serving him and him alone supremely, but we don't do that. And there's a sense in which every single person on the face of the earth, to some degree, is living surely by the mercy and forgiveness of God. And yet, because we don't know it, or because it's not real to us, because we don't think about it, we're constantly having trouble forgiving other people. That's you're getting a simplistic answer because it's brief here. You have to be brief. But even Rachel Denhollander, who recognizes, she said at one point when she was so angry about the way in which she'd been abused, she thought about walking away from religion. And then she realized, just get rid of God. Just get rid of it. Then I don't have to forgive, and I can just go out and do vengeance. But then she said, okay, if there's no God, then who's to say what's right and wrong? Isn't this like the strong eating the weak? Isn't this evolution, natural selection?
Right.
And she
Survival of
realized
the fittest.
If I get rid of God, then I actually have no good reason to go out and seek justice. But if I keep God, then I have to do it without a horrible vengefulness, with a certain humility, with a remembrance that I myself am a sinner living only by the mercy of God. Yeah. And that just changes the way I go about getting justice. She went and got justice, but she just didn't do it in the way that a person would have done it who didn't remember that she was living by the mercy of God alone.
Right. Okay, so Tim, before the break, though, you mentioned a couple of times, you said, well, younger people today are having a harder time forgiving. I mean, is it an observation from your perspective as a cultural thing that's happening?
Well, it's partly because, frankly, religion is receding. I mean, we all know that whenever it says, look at how many people don't have any religious preference, over a third of younger people have no religious preference, no religion, something like that, and it's growing very fast. So they're walking away from religion. Interestingly, they say because they see religion as very harsh and vindictive and unforgiving, I think. There's plenty of warrant there. We have plenty of skeletons in our closet.
Yep.
On the other hand, then they don't have the resources to forgive where they're going to need it. Because I actually don't believe you cannot seek justice if you haven't got forgiveness in your heart, because instead of justice, you'll be seeking vengeance. Mm-hmm. And when you seek the vengeance, it always backfires on you. Not only do you become as cruel as the person who wronged you, but also very often they don't respond because you just don't do a good job of it.
Right.
And so basically, I think younger people are walking away from religion, and they, as a result, they don't have the resources. And that's very.
There's another thing too, as far as young people, is that with social media, they have not had very much experience of face-to-face relationships.
Yeah.
Or they have less
point.
experience, let's put it that way. And having to actually talk to a person and say, I'm unhappy about this. You've hurt me. You've done this wrong. Is a terrifying thought to some people. I mean.
Yes.
But let me quickly add this. Our middle son is a pastor. He's in his early 40s, but he's a pastor, so he's a little closer to the ground. He's a lot of younger people in his church. And he says whenever there's a bad relationship, a relationship that goes bad amongst younger people, they don't get together. They just ghost each other. They just stop texting each other. They just
walk away.
And they walk away in a way that those of us, excuse me for saying that, of older ilk, we had to talk to people.
Yeah. If
we were going to break up with them, you couldn't do it by text or email or something like that, see you around. You had to go tell them, I'm breaking up with you, for example. Mm-hmm. And so Michael, our son, says that younger people have an enormous amount of problem to forgive or to try to reconcile or even to talk to people about. When the relationship's gone bad, they just walk away.
Right. And there's cancel culture as well on top of it, right? I mean, it's easy to just, you're just invisible to me.
And that's right. And there's no forgiveness in cancel culture.
What about that non-forgiveness, Tim, that is lauded today as a type of virtue? So if I forgive, I am letting it slide. I'm saying I don't really care about my issue. I'm saying that I'm going to let you get away with it. It's almost like I am unjust by forgiving you.
Or you're weak.
Yeah, well, you are in a way selfish if you define forgiveness the way a lot of secular people do, which is I'm trying to get over my anger. In other words, I don't want this to bother me anymore, and so I'm going to get past it. That's actually very selfish. The reason you should forgive is love. You're responding to God's love by loving other people, and when I forgive the perpetrator, I'm doing it out of love for that perpetrator, not just like I want to get away from you so you don't hurt me anymore. Mm-hmm. And the best way to not only love the perpetrator, but anybody else that perpetrator might ever in the future hurt would be for me to go confront the perpetrator. And so I would confront and seek justice out of love for God, out of love for the perpetrator, out of love for the perpetrator's victims. And frankly, if you say, I don't want to do that, I just want to get away, that's not love. That's just selfishness.
Right. I mean, you know this, I'm sure, that Tish Harrison Warren wrote a terrific essay this week in the New York Times about marriage. Yep. I mean, if you read it and you're married, it raised the skin on the back of your neck. I mean, holy smokes. I mean, talk about forgiveness in a brutal atmosphere. I loved it.
Yeah. And she's a Pittsburgher.
Yes, she is.
Yes, she is, my friend.
Well, just a visit,
I don't think she ever landed in Philly. I hate to bring that up, Tim, when you're not feeling your best, but it was right there.
Hey, before we leave, Kath, talk to us about, so Tim has laid out his weekend plans. Now you're the caregiver, Kath. What's it look like for you?
Well, I'm not having to do too much caregiving right now. The team here, the people, the doctors, the nurses, are amazing. I've gotten a new appreciation for common grace. I don't know how many people are familiar with that term, but the fact that God gives gifts to people who makes it rain on the just and on the unjust, and he makes people smart and wise and skillful on the just and the unjust. I mean, if it was only Christians who knew how to do cutting-edge immunotherapy, we would be still back in the caves with pieces of charcoal.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if the Christians were the only ones who could do things. So I'm not having to do a lot of caregiving right this minute, except caring for Tim and caring about him, etc.
Yeah.
I don't have to hook up meds and run IVs and that sort of thing. So,
but still, you're there.
That part's easy, but being at the hospital for 6, 8, 10 hours a day.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Well, it's exhausting, but there's nobody I'd rather be with.
Of course.
I mean, if I wasn't with Tim, what would I what would I want to do? I mean, Tim and I are probably technically codependent, but in the best possible way. I mean, neither one of us wants to go see a movie if the other one isn't seeing it, so we can talk about it afterwards.
We call it redemptive codependency.
Sure, that's fine. Look,
it'll be my next book.
Look, that's a sickness you can deal with later.
Yeah, it'll be out sometime next year.
John Kathy, my sons each of my sons are going to come down and spend some days here to see me, of course, but largely also to support their mom.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And especially this weekend, our oldest son will be here. And I think I probably am going to look like, as Kathy says, you're going to look like roadkill, something a truck ran over. And I think she'll probably need some comfort and somebody to be talking to. So I think our sons are going to help the caregiver give her care.
Excellent. Okay, so Tim, then you go in the tunnel when and hopefully come out when?
It's basically Friday to Sunday, generally speaking, but Monday.
Well, yes, Friday till indefinite.
Right.
They don't really know.
Right.
They
want to give him as many. They want to give him as many doses of this IL-2 as his body can tolerate, and the only way they can tell how many that is to give him one more than his body can tolerate.
Okay.
Well,
and then deal with the.
Yeah, to answer the question, right, Kathy Kathy Keller, is if you're in other words, the side effects might last longer than the weekend. It all depends, and there's a lot of them, so we'll see.
So you're going to take it to the limit.
One more time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm doing, though, is I'm needle pointing up a storm, boy.
Okay.
The world is going to be covered with my needle point. I don't care if it's a Victorian thing. There's going to be needle point from here to Pittsburgh and back about
Good,
7
that's
or 8
fine.
times.
Excellent. So,
And Tim, I might want to suggest
On the
reruns
turnpike.
of the Rockford Files. I don't know. I mean, you poo-pooed it earlier, but I think maybe reconsideration is in order.
Well, okay. I'll see what I can do now that I'm done with my book.
there's less enthusiasm there, Tim.
Do what you have to do, Tim.
Love you guys.
We love you,
We
Kath.
really do.
We love you, and I wrote down on my calendar right at the start of our conversation each day. Pray for Tim and Kath, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you can be assured that there are thousands of people who are listening to this broadcast are going to see the next ones, people all over the world to whom you are so important.
I thank you. I really appreciate it. We really do feel surrounded by people's prayers.
Fabulous.
That matters. It really does.
God be with you, Tim. You too, Kath.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Tim and Kathy Keller. Listen, everybody.
Pray for these guys.
You're a pray warrior.
Friday, Saturday,
This is
Sunday,
it.
Monday.
Put it into
Bring it.
another gear here, right?
For our
Bring
good
it
friends.
on. The experimentation in a man's life.
101.5 WORD.
I won! Yes!
And we want you to win too. So sign up to receive our contests and sweepstakes update. Each Friday, you can see new opportunities to win. We regularly give out prizes from books, music, and merchandise to household items, even vacation trips or car payments. Stay up on all the fun. Subscribe to our contests and sweepstakes update, mailed each Friday.
Sign up today at wordfm.com/subscribe.
Turkey and stuffing, real mashed potatoes, sliced top round, Aunt Emma's broccoli casserole, chicken and gravy over buttermilk biscuits.